What's up, everyone? It's Matt Morozic, and I got the Phrozen set up. Finally kind of rearranged my work area a little bit. So I moved all this stuff over here and kind of cleaned up and reorganized. Got my staging area kind of fixed again. So that's everything I'm working on right now. I've got one more over there that I can't show you. So I got this little spot over here for it. It fits perfectly on this desk, actually. And where my computer is, I'll put a cookie sheet down or something. So when I pull prints off, I can put it on the cookie sheet and I'll catch the excess resin and stuff. So following the instructions, I plugged it in, turned it on, and right now it's, I guess, initializing. This is supposed to take 2 minutes. This has been going on for about 5 minutes so far, and I know another user on YouTube said it took his about 10 to 12 minutes. So I'm just gonna let it do its thing and see. Hopefully it boots up. We'll see. And then from there, I'm gonna let this do its thing. And then when I get to the touch screen, I'll go through the menus and stuff. And I'll show you how to level the bed on this. It looks like a relatively simple process. I've downloaded Chi2Box on my computer. I've downloaded some test files. I've got a lattice. I've got the Benchy boat. And I also downloaded a Baby Yoda that's dressed up in a Santa suit. So I've never used Chi2Box. This is going to be a completely new learning curve for me. So my goal is to start a print today and see how it goes. We'll see. So I'll probably start maybe with like the Benchy boat, because that's like a torture test for these things, and maybe the lattice. I'll do small prints, nothing big, just to kind of get a feel for the process. So right now it's initializing. Like I said, it's been going on for probably not 5 minutes, and then we'll come back when it's done, and I'll let you know how long it took. Okay, so as before, this thing was booting and booting and booting, and I waited a very long time, probably 45 minutes. So I went back and watched, it was Dungeon Printer that was having the same issues with the booting. I went and watched this video. Basically what I did, I turned it off, I removed the micro SD card in the back, making sure not to drop it in the machine, reinserted it, turned the machine back on, and after about a minute, the main screen came up. So here we are. So now the next step is to calibrate the Z-axis. So where we're going to do that is we're going to go in here, touch that, and the first thing we got to do is we're going to, let me make sure I'm doing this right because I don't want to mess it up. Let me get the manual out. I have it open right here. I also have Chi2Box going up on my machine, trying to figure that out a little bit right now. Let me get the manual out so I do this correctly. Okay, so we're going to, so we got to open the machine, obviously. So let's do that. Got to open this right side first. Just do this without knocking my computer over. That'd be. Oops, sorry. As usually, only the best, highest quality video production here at Polish Industries. All right, so we open the machine. I've got the build plate out already. And we're going to put the build plate in. And it's pretty simple. You got these two locking screws up here. Got the build plate, and it simply slides in and locks down. Push it in all the way, lock it down. Next thing we got to do to calibrate this, we have to remove the Resident Vat. So on that, we have two screws here on the side. I've already done this once just to kind of play with it earlier or last night. And these just simply unscrew. Like this. Making sure not to lose those little things. Pick this up. Make sure you have a safe place to put the resin vac, so you don't want to mess up your FEP sheet, which is this. So I'm going to set this over here on a towel. Actually, I'm going to set it upside down on another table over here so it doesn't touch anything. And then here's our LCD screen down here. I'm going to blow it off with some canned air because we want to make sure there's no dust or anything in the way of this as the build platform goes down. Get myself a nice clean sheet of paper. And we're going to cover it up just like that. This is going to act as our calibration. And this is like the same on most printers from what I've seen. It uses pretty much the same step. And then we're going to click on Z-Axis calibration icon. Did that. Click on the right icon to enter the calibration. So then we're going to come down here to the screen, and I'm going to click on the center button, and we're going to confirm there's no form. Did that. Remove the resin tank. I did that. I put a piece of paper down. I did that. Oh, next thing we need to do is we need to loosen. There are 4 screws at the top here. There's one right here. I'm just going to loosen them. There's one right here. And then the same on the other side. There's 2 more on the other side. We're not taking them out, we're just loosening them. Loosen here. And loosen here. And you can see that fell down. So now this is loose. Alright. I did that. And I think if I remember correctly from watching some other videos, this takes quite a long time for this build platform to get down. So on the screen here it says, remove the model, clean up the material container, loosen 4 screws. We did that. And now we're going to hit next. And now it's going to start lowering. And you can hear the fans kicked in. So there it goes, going down. Now my build platform, or this part, was not all the way to the top. It was probably about, I don't know, a little more than 3/4. So it's not. I thought it was going to go slower than this from the last video I saw. So once this gets down here, it should stop. I hope. Yeah, it didn't take that long. I thought it'd take like minutes. Now this is later in the production of this, so they may have. I'm not sure if this one is slightly different than the very first few that went out. I'm not sure if they made adjustments. They may have. I don't know. But this is going pretty quick. So once it stops, okay. And on the screen says, on the bottom here says, waiting for Z-Axis to bottom. So now it's giving me the next instructions to do. It says lock the 4 screws, and the instructions that advises you to kind of hold this down with one hand, put a little pressure on it, and then lock these down. So basically what you're doing is you're calibrating this to compensate for the FEP sheet, which it seems like was what you're doing. And I'm going to come down here and we're going to slightly push on it, get a little bit of pressure. Sorry if I'm in front. Okay, and then we hit done, and now it's going to raise it. So that should take care of it. That should take care of the Z-Axis calibration. Then we'll add the, remove the paper. And then we'll replace the resin vat. And then after that, the printer should be ready for printing. So I'm going to go ahead and replace the resin vat. I'm going to blow it off again. Making sure there's nothing on here. maybe. Let's see, I've got a duster here. I'm just gonna take a little duster and get the bottom of it. And my battery may die here in a second. And then we're gonna replace this. Maybe? Oh. All right. So now I should be able to import a file and print. So I've just got G2Box loaded on my machine. I'm trying to figure that out. I think I have to set up a profile for this printer. But now it's back there and the fans have turned off. So I know people said this was loud. It's not as loud as I thought it was going to be. It's no louder than like a hobby air compressor. I did find out that the little thumb drive is actually not a thumb drive, it's a Wi-Fi dongle. So I need to put that in to set up Wi-Fi. So let me do that, and then maybe I can transfer some files. Okay, so I put the Wi-Fi dongle in, and Wi-Fi set up super quick. It took literally like 10 seconds to do. So I started kind of scrolling around this thing to see if there's a test print, and there is. So let's go back to the home. So if anyone's watched any of these other videos of this thing, let me get a better exposure. Plates is your files. And this is installed already. Test Phrozen file. PHZ is their Phrozen naming convention for their files. So if I click on that, it tells me there's 6,011 layers. I'm not sure how big this thing is. Doesn't run G code. I'm not sure what this is. But if I do a preview, if I click on this gives me a preview. And it's basically a big cylinder. Now, I did see a photo in the group of a guy printing a cylinder, and it was the full length of the printer. I do not want to do that. I can click on, that doesn't do anything. That doesn't do anything. Test. Okay, so your resolution. I don't want to print. Okay, so if I push down here, it goes through. Okay, this is kind of cool. So this little slider shows you the different layers. So it's obviously a cylinder. So the first layer is going to be just a square base. And then as you go up through the print, it's a cylinder. So it shows you kind of a cross section of each. What does this do? I'm not sure what these buttons do. I'm just pushing stuff. So, don't know what that does. Don't know what that does. I'm not going to print it, so I'm going to exit out of here. Because I want to... okay, here's the test profile. Okay, so here on the test file, this gives us all our settings. 800 seconds. Again, I'm not sure what all this means. It's new to me. Let's see, setup, I already did. Shutdown, need to update status. If I hit status, what does it show me? Okay, a micro SD, I guess CPU usage and temperature. Get out of there. I'm not going to worry about updating. I can do an LCD test. Not sure what that's going to do. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I just clicked on the LCD test and I hit the grid and my LCD is lighting up. So if I hit white, there's nothing. If I hit black, so you can look at this to see if there's any dead pixels or anything, and to my eye it looks fine. It says like there's a 20-second test going on. Let's see. You can't see anything. There we go. So it turns it on for 20 seconds and then turns it off. Alrighty. So I guess the next thing I got to do is I got to decide what I want to print first. I'm not going to do that test print because I think it's the full length of the printer and I don't want to print anything big. I need to, I may try to print that little Yoda first or a Benchy boat. So I got to get into Chi2 box and figure that out, and then we'll go from there. But so the Wi-Fi setup, LCD test, kind of show you where the files are. I showed you how to calibrate the Z-Axis. Again, a lot of this stuff I don't know what it means, especially all the settings, like all this stuff. I know this is like exposure time and things like that, but I have to go through and find out what these numbers mean. Let's see, the manual tells me exactly what this is. So obviously the profile for this test print. I guess you can build a profile for each individual file. So that's kind of cool. But I'm going to quit out of this, go back to home, and then play with Chi2 box a little bit and see if I can't get a file going. Okay, I think I'm finally ready to try my first print. I've literally spent like all day just trying to figure out how to download the files. I spent hours like in Chi2 box. You know, I'm a complete noob at this. So this is like handing me tools to do brain surgery. It's like, here, go operate on a brain for the first time. So there's a lot of information. I thought it'd be a little easier since I have a photography background, but this is completely different. So I finally was able to download off a Chi2 box. I downloaded the Rook test, which is kind of that spiral looking thing. So I finally got it onto a USB drive. I downloaded a bunch of stuff off of Thingiverse, but like Chi2 box wasn't recognizing it, and I downloaded the I actually finally got it to work with the Phrozen slicing software. I found a link to it and downloaded the Phrozen slicing software. Finally got it into there. So here it is on my menu under the plates. Now let's see what you can see here, all the different layers. This is 1,579 layers. Now I do have supports on it. I added supports in the Phrozen software, so we'll see how this works. There's my resolution. Let's see. I'm going to add some resin to this. Let's see what happens. And shake it up a little bit. I mean, the only way to learn is by doing, right? So we're going to got my resin here. So I put a couple posts on a couple of the pages, the Facebook groups. Actually, I had one there. Yep. I opened up one last night because I wanted to see how bad it smelled. It didn't smell too bad, but I'm not sure. So we're going to shake this up a little bit. Give it a good mix. I don't want to introduce any air bubbles. Now, when you load this, it says don't load it up more than halfway. So from previous videos, this vat will take a whole bottle of this, just no problem. I don't think I'll run into any issues. So I'm just gonna give it a little mix. And I'm gonna pour some resin in there. I don't have any gloves on, you're supposed to wear gloves. I don't take all the necessary safety precautions, so I'm not the best representative. Let's go and put gloves on, just so I can look like I'm legit, trying to be safe. It does have a pretty strong odor to it, so I'm interested to see how this goes. Because I have it out in my work area. I think eventually on big prints I'll have to vent this out. We're going to go ahead and pour some resin in. This is just a little thing, so it's not going to take a whole lot. I'm just going to put that much in. I got about 3/4 of the bottle left. I'm going to hit yes. And it's going to start up, and the plate's going to go down. So I think I got this set up correctly based on some of the perimeters I found online. And someone else in one of the groups posted a link to the resin profiles. I think I have it set up correctly. So we're going to try it out, see what happens. I'm not going to show the whole printing process because I'm not sure how long this is supposed to take. It's 1,500 layers. It's the little rook guy. So I'm going to let this do its thing, and we'll come back in a little while and see what it looks like, see if I've got anything. I'm going to start a timer, or at least note what time it is so I know how long this thing is taking. So it's going to go down and start to print. I'm going to close this up because I don't want any light in there. And I'll come back later and see what it looks like in a couple hours. Okay, so we're printing. This says I've got a print time of 27 hours and 46 minutes. Not sure how, well, now just went to 29 hours. I'm not sure how accurate this is. But I started this at 5:04 p.m. and we'll see how long it takes. You can see here what's printing right now, all the supports for the rook. Other people mentioned don't do supports, just print it flat. But I was in the slicing software, and I just had it add supports anyway, just to see what it would do. Why not? So we're going to see how this goes. So there we go. First print's on the way, and we're on layer 3 of 1,578. So I'm excited. Hopefully this comes out. I don't know. It could be a complete disaster for my first print. It might turn out. Who knows? So it's all an experiment, but it's pretty exciting. Oh, okay. So it's been printing now for about 2 hours. We're a little, almost halfway there, and I can see my print. So it is adhered to the bed plate, or to the build plate, and from what I can tell, it's looking pretty good so far. I'm not sure I can show much in here with the camera. You can see it up in there. It's adhered. You can see, kind of see the supports. So pretty cool. As you can see, it's, let me turn this flash off. Anyway, I got my little flash on the camera. It's 604 layers into the process, and so far so good. Okay, so we're right at 3 hours away from this thing is going to be done. We're at exactly just over halfway through the print, and let's see how we're looking. Well, there it is. You can see my supports. You can see the model in there. And I guess the positive thing is that it didn't fall off the build plate, so that's a positive for a very first print ever. It's hard to see in here, but I can actually see, so that if you're not familiar with this print test, which anyone who does 3D printing is, there's a little spiral staircase in the center of this, and actually this model is much bigger than I anticipated. I didn't resize it or anything. I've seen much smaller versions of this, so I'm not sure this is really a torture test for this printer because it's a decent sized rook, but I was just happy to get a file printing. To be honest, I was working at least 3 or 4 hours just messing with T2 Box and everything, and finally get the Phrozen software downloaded on my computer. And I'm also working with a PC laptop that I'm not used to, so it's like that's a learning curve. So basically everything I can learn at one time I'm doing, because I don't do anything the easy way. I just start doing things. But pretty exciting. So yeah, so this initially when I started the print, it says like 29 hours, but it's interesting because it's, see, now it went up, the time went up. So it's constantly changing the print time. Initially it says like a 30-hour print, but the first few layers with the supports were, each layer was 60 seconds or 1 minute. So those first few layers took, you know, 10-15 minutes just to get the initial layers done. Now I'm exposing every layer at 7 seconds. The resin profile said 7 to 8 seconds, so I'm chatting with the gentleman right now who's been very helpful and he's saying I should be hearing a pop on the FEP sheet, which I'm not, which I guess it means it's curing just the right amount and has just enough tension, showing that the resin is cured. So once I get this out and I clean it off, and then I've got a little UV lamp I'll cure it with, and he said if it's still kind of soft after that, increase the exposure time to 8 seconds in this resin. So yay, pretty exciting, halfway through on this very first print on our 3D printer. So pretty exciting. It's a pretty neat process to watch. And also this stuff does kind of stink. When I first put it in, it didn't bug me, and then I asked my wife and my kids if they can smell it. They can smell it a little bit. I'm just in my work area, so I'll probably have to find maybe a different place for this, or I'll put it next to the window over here because I got enough space, and then I'll or I could actually put it in front of the window and open the window while it's printing. That would actually be a good solution. I may do that. I can't show you this one over here. I keep trying to pan over here. You can't see this. Not allowed to see that. I can cover my hand. That's the base to something I'm working on. But I can put it in front of the window, and then at least I can open the window while it's printing, and that should help with the fumes. So yeah, but I'm pretty excited. I mean, this is cool. I was just happy to get a print going. So I'll come back when it's done, and we'll show the process of pulling it out and cleaning it up and everything. Okay, it's been exactly 6 hours and 40 minutes, and the print just finished. So let's take a look at what we have here. I've been checking it through the whole process, and from what I can tell, it looks good. Don't know until I get it out and rinse it off and stuff. So open up the tray. There you can see our rook. Like I said, it's bigger than I've seen on other tests, but I didn't resize it. I just kind of downloaded the file and used it. Got my gloves on. Loosen the tray here, the build platform. Slide it off. And there we go. All right, I got a little drippage here. Let me get some paper towels. I wasn't paying attention and I dripped some resin. At the end of the world. Close that up for now. So as far as the amount of resin used, I don't know until I empty the vat. I don't think I used a ton of resin. I'm going to pull this over here to a table. I do have some alcohol over here in a container. I've also been told that mean green cleaning solution works. So there it is. All right, let's see if we can get this off the build platform. I'm just going to not even try to use the plastic scraper. I'm just going to use the metal scraper. Oops. It's coming right off because I used supports. If I wouldn't have used supports, this would have been harder to get off, but it came right off. And I'm going to throw it in my little alcohol here. I need a bigger vat of alcohol to clean the build plate. So I'm just going to put it right, for now I'm just going to put it in this cookie sheet because I've got lined with saran wrap. And I'm going to, so I got this in some alcohol. I'm going to agitate this for a little while. And then we'll rinse off and see what we got. So I just remembered I had an ultrasonic cleaner. I haven't used it in a long time, so we're gonna put this on. The highest I can go is it's been a while since I've used this. I don't want any heat for like 5 minutes. So we're gonna turn that on You can hear it going. You may be able to see some bubbles in there. So I'm going to put this in the ultrasonic cleaner for about 5 minutes and then take it out and rinse it off and see how it looks. Okay, so I put it in the sonic cleaner for about 5 minutes and then I rinse it off with some water. And from what I can tell, it looks pretty good. Where I'm wondering if what I'm seeing vertical lines. So I'm wondering if that's in the file. I'm not seeing any really horizontal like print layers. There's a little bit there, but for a very first 3D print, I think it looks pretty damn good. All I did was I took the file, I downloaded it once I could finally get it into the Phrozen software. I just put it in there. I hit for support that just hit automatic and it added it to the bottom. So these will come right off. I can take them right off right now, like this. It feels solid. It needs to be cured still, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. For now, I am going to build a curing booth eventually, but for now I got just a little kind of ghetto setup. A lot of people use this kind of thing. I happen to have a nail dryer from my wife. So I get the supports off. That'll stand up really nicely. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up this nail dryer, UV nail dryer. Everyone's seen these before, like this. And I've got one of these little, this one's battery operated. It's a battery operated turntable. So I'm just gonna basically set this up and let it cure. Phrozen says it needs to cure for like, I don't know, like 3 or 4 hours. I think that's, I'm not sure if that's right, but maybe with this kind of light, because it's gonna be small and so my plan is to put that there, put this here, and just have it rotate. And since I'm only having on one side, I don't have a mirror or anything to put on the other side. Hopefully that'll cure it decently. I don't know. Let's see how much light it's given. I just figure if I leave this overnight like this, it'll probably be okay. Like that, at least so. Not the fastest way to cure this, obviously, but it's what I got for now. But it feels solid. Doesn't feel tacky or anything. Feels pretty damn solid. So yeah, I mean, pretty happy with that for a first print. Of course, I gotta try some other things and play with settings, but for the most part, it's pretty damn good. Yeah, I'm seeing vertical lines, not like striations like print lines. So I'm not wondering if that's in the file, because you'd expect to see horizontal lines like with print layers, but I'm not seeing that. The side inside the staircase is replicated beautifully. The little helix pattern is perfect. So again, I made this I just used this as at the default size, so I'm not sure if it was a smaller print, if it would be harder for it to do. So I'm not sure if it's actually like a torture test, but I just wanted to get something printed. So like I said, I'm gonna let this sit overnight, let it cure, and then we'll really take a look at it in the morning and sand the supports off and give it a really good look over. But so far I'm super happy with the first print. Couldn't be happier, really. So stay tuned for the final first print. Okay, so here we are. So I put this underneath the UV lamp overnight and it's cured and it's nice and hard. Went ahead and sand up the supports just now and cleaned it up real quick. So overall, I'm real happy with the results of this. A few little things, like a little bubble right there, and a few little bubbles on the top. I don't think this is that big of a deal. It'll be easy to fill in. I'm not seeing any striations horizontally. I'm seeing them vertically. So to me, that's got to be in the file. I'll take a look at it, but I'm not seeing any layer lines horizontally. So this is in the Phrozen software, it gives you basically two options for resolution: the highest resolution or a faster print. And I went for the highest resolution because I wanted to just, you know, put it to the test. But super happy with this. For a first try, it took me all damn day to do it, to get it on the printer and going, but pretty excited. So a few things. I've got to figure out a way to vent this thing because it does stink. At first I thought it wouldn't be that big of a deal, but it does smell. It's a little loud. It's not too terribly loud. It's kind of like a sound of I would equate it to like maybe like one of my hobby compressors running, but it runs, you know, for, you know, all the time. It's constantly going while it's printing. So a couple ideas I have in mind is to build an enclosure and vent it. That'll cut down on the noise and the fumes. Try to find space in my paint room for it. I really don't want to do that because even though that's vented, I still get overspray in there, and I don't want, the last thing I want is like the optics getting paint overspray on them. So I got to figure it out, but pretty happy with the first test print. A few little things here and there that I'm being pretty nitpicky, I think, but right up in here I got some little discrepancies. But you know, it's like someone made a comment about striations. You're always going to have striations in 3D prints, at least from what I've seen. The question is, how small are they and how easy are they to deal with? Prints from the Form 2 I've seen have striations. You got to deal with them, prime them, maybe do a little post-processing. But these all require post-processing. It's not just print and go. You got to do a little bit of work still. The beautiful thing about these things is that there are so many sources for 3D sculpts and models that are free. You can print a lot of cool stuff, and then also it opens up, hiring sculptors and working with sculptors to do whatever it is you want to do. Like me and Floyd, we want to make some model kits and offer some stuff like that. Do personal stuff. So pretty excited about it. So yeah, and also I got to learn how to clean the FEP sheet. I need like a proper cleaning station. I used alcohol last night, but I'm gonna go get some of the mean green at Walmart. It's cheaper, and from what I hear, it works just as well, if not better, than alcohol. Because buying alcohol in large quantities can get expensive. But I used 2 of the larger bottles in my Ultrasonic Cleaner last night to clean this. But yeah, it looks good. Super happy. So I'll say my first test print is a success. Really happy with it. So stay tuned for more as I learn how to use this printer even further, and as I figure out how to vent this and all that fun stuff. But as always, thanks for watching. It's Matt Rosick. Catch you guys next time.